Hello, I'm Ruben and welcome to the Samplecast. This is episode number 39 and the second time I've had to record it because the first time the microphone wasn't on. Dope, what an absolute idiot. There's plenty to come in this episode. We've got a composer interview with the one and only Marie-Anne Fischer. We've got a review of analog strings, the usual bargains, freebies, progress reports, and we're going to kick off with this week's news. So first up, a new world music pack from Impact Soundworks is Koron, Traditional Instruments of Iran. This is their biggest collection yet, and it's 10 different Middle Eastern instruments with 5 melodic ones and 5 percussive. Koron runs in the full version of Contact 5.5.2 and above, and in total it's 11 gigabytes in size with over 17,000 different samples having been recorded. Anyone who's played with any recent Impact Soundworks instrument should feel right at home as the interface is pretty much the same. I'm not going to go through all of the different instruments here, but you can see them all on the Impact Soundworks website and their comprehensive video walkthrough. Suffice to say, if you're writing any cues that are even vaguely sort of Persian in type, then do have a look at Koron. Espressivo by Sonokinetic is out this week, and it's yet another library that I've worked on, so hopefully you'll forgive me if I gush a little bit about it. This is an aleatoric orchestral phrase-based library for Contact. It runs in the full version and Contact Player 5.1 and above, and it's up to 14 gigabytes in size for the 24-bit version. I did the testing, manual and walkthrough videos for this, and I have to say I had so much fun with the flexible controls and the strong sound. It really kind of invokes memories of Bernard Herrmann and some of Jerry Goldsmith's work. I'm a big fan of both of those composers, so it was great to play with. This library has been recorded in the same hall as all of Sonokinetic's other orchestral libraries with the normal 4 microphone positions, and you can hear more about Espressivo later on in the show where Marie-Anne Fischer will walk us through her demo. Cinematique Instruments' Balalaika is a Russian string instrument. It runs in Contact 4 and above, and it's just under a gigabyte in size. You've got plucked strum and pattern variations here with some simple interface controls for cabinet and tone. To be honest, I wasn't too excited about this when I heard about it, but once it dropped in my inbox, I did have a lot of fun looking at the walkthrough video and listening to the demos. I did think it sounded very nice, and I suspect very authentic as well. Do check it out at the Cinematique Instruments website. Trailer Strings for Musical Sampling is out now. It's a 5.3 gigabyte library and runs in the full version of Contact 5.5.1 and above. This is a big powerful string library specifically geared up for trailer scoring. So you've got a really nice big orchestra string section here. It's 60 pieces, recorded in a wide configuration with 3 microphone positions. It's got an unapologetically upfront and aggressive sound, and despite that it does have a very simple interface with just the essential controls on board and articulation switching. The library also includes some very big low string effects as well. Their previous trailer brass library was a big hit, and it looks like this one could go in the same direction. Do check it out at the Musical Sampling website. Last up, Calypso by Auddict. It looks like Auddict have gone in a little bit of a new direction here, this time sampling a solo female soprano voice with various different vowel and consonant sounds. This is 4 gigabytes in size, runs in the full version of Contact 4 and above, and it features true legato and 5 mic positions. This should be useful for the kind of solo vocal that you get in epic orchestral scores. I'm thinking here of Zimmer's Gladiator score. It's currently on offer at 50% off. Do check it out at the Auddict website. Those strange guys at Embertone are launching their Stranger Themes competition. This is a really cool looking giveaway from the guys there just to get your creative juices flowing. Basically what you've got to do is submit a simple melodic theme to them by the 31st of March, and then all the themes will be posted anonymously for composers to pick and choose and create their own works based on that theme. There are prizes worth more than $11,000 here for both the theme writers and the adapting composers too. And one of the prizes is a lifetime of Embertone products, and you can also win plenty of hardware too. By the way, do check out the judges for this competition. There's some real big names here, and there's more info and terms and conditions on the Embertone website. Only a couple of bargains this week, but they're both pretty nice ones. The first one is Juggernaut from Impact Soundworks. This is a 4.5GB library, runs in not just the full version of Kontakt, but also Kontakt Player, versions 5.1 and above. And it's a workstation of useful trailer scoring and drum effects. The sounds here lean more towards the kind of electronic rather than the organic, but it's perfect for hybrid orchestral or hard-hitting cues. There are 550 drum sounds here alone, so it's a pretty good bargain just for those. Usually it's almost €140, but currently it's 65% off at €49.99. If you use Ableton, this one's for you. It's cloned by Sonic Faction, and you can get it via Plugin Boutique. This is a kind of 80s synth that runs in Ableton Max for Live. Don't get it confused, as there is a Kontakt version too, but sadly the Kontakt version isn't on offer at the moment. So it's a great vintage synth emulation with loads of options for modulation, FM synthesis and effects. It used to sell for £35, but is currently just £1. So if you've got a copy of Ableton and are interested in synths at all, then this is really a no-brainer. I'm so happy to be able to announce this week that Marie-Anne Fischer is our composer interview. She's been a great friend for many years, and she's a pillar of the UK composing community, lending her talents to many social groups and the Scorecast community as well. She's a really well-rounded composer in her own right, as well as working on films. She writes demo tracks for some of the biggest sample libraries out there. So I caught up with her this week to chat about her work on Sonokinetic's Espressivo demo, and you can hear the full track and her interview on the Samplecast podcast. That's available on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, TuneIn, and all the usual podcasting platforms. Do check it out. This week's review is Analog Strings by Output. It runs in the free and full version of Kontakt, versions 5.6.5 and above, and is almost 20GB compressed. It's just one big Kontakt patch. Although it looks complex, it's really quite easy to break down in terms of its functionality. At its heart, it's a dual sound source rompler with the emphasis on string sounds. So you've got real orchestra strings that have been sampled here, synth strings as well, and other audio that's been manipulated too. There's 500 presets, and you can browse those via tag and category. You can also favourite the presets that you like. The sources here are comprised of 30 orchestral, 30 synth and 30 creative sounds. Then the other pages of the interface are for changing the envelope and width, adding effects, rhythm and arpeggios. Output have also brought back the macro system, which users of Substance might be familiar with. There's 4 different sliders here on the main page, and these can be adjusted to multiple parameters in the interface in user-defined ranges. So first off, let's have a listen to how Analog Strings sounds. I'm going to run you through some of the things that I really liked about this library. First off, the presets do all sound very different, although most of them are really nothing like strings. I did love the ability to choose portions of the source samples to play, and also to be able to reverse the samples. The tape loops sync nicely to tempo, and I did also find the help overlay very useful. You've got a really large range of presets here with sensibly assigned macro options, so I enjoyed tweaking those just on the fly without having to go too deep into the interface. But once I did go deeper, I also loved the extensive editing options, although it's a little bit easy to get lost with all the dials. It's super easy to be able to change the sound sources. You just flick left and right on the arrows, or you can open up the menu. And it's kind of similar to Substance in its editing and macro options. So if you've used Output's previous library, you shouldn't find much difficulty using this one, as long as you can figure out where all the knobs are. Although this library is mostly good, it's not perfect. There were a few cons. When I found out the library was almost 20 gigabytes, I did expect more sound sources. Now, granted, what's there can be twisted and manipulated into many different sounds using the options and effects, but I did expect more than 90 different sound sources that are on offer here. Compared to the ease that you can swap the sound sources in and out, changing the rhythm presets is a bit of a palaver in comparison. Using the drop-down menu and then having to click load every time to preview these different rhythms was a bit of a pain. By default, the mod wheel isn't assigned to anything, but you can obviously set it to control any contact parameter at all with a right click in the normal way. But because each preset has different macros set up, this can be unpredictable in terms of the sounds. It would have been nice to have a standardised mod wheel control, maybe just something simple like a high cut filter or something like that, because this would have been standard across all of the patches, so I would have known what to have expected. So in conclusion, you've never heard a string library quite like this, and that could be a good or a bad thing, depending on the genres of music that you create. Some will find the presets here are way too out there to be used in their own productions without lots of tweaking. But I suspect that hybrid, experimental, trailer and especially dance producers will find plenty of gems to spice up their tracks without too many adjustments. I do recommend you check out Analog Strings by Output. I'm going to quickly run through some nice freebies this week. The first is Carpentry tools from Sampleso. These samples aren't new, but I did come across the pack this week, so I'm including it. It's a collection of Carpenter's workshop sounds, highly mutated and folded into several Contact instruments for the full version of Contact version 5 and above. Now, you wouldn't especially think Carpentry sounds would be useful, but most of them are aggressive and there's some really interesting percussion noises here as well. I could easily find these sounds slipping into some of my kind of hybrid and experimental cues. They're very unusual sounds and I do recommend you check them out. Bullet Drums from Loops de la Creme is a WAV pack of 124 drum samples recorded with the famous vintage Shure green Bullet microphone. It's a small and simple pack with a suggested price of €6, but you can actually download it for free until March 31st at the Loops de la Creme website. If you head over to the Sampleism website, you can find Hephaestus sounds. I came across this company whilst checking out their free oboe, which is pretty decent. Aside from this, they also have a pipe organ, guitar, piano, saxophone and hand drum libraries. Now, I haven't had the chance to check them all out, but for free, I'm not really complaining, so do have a look at the Sampleism website for details. I wanted to mention this upcoming library by Keepforest as it's currently on pre-sale. Now, when it actually comes out at the end of the month, we'll be on a little break at the Samplecast, so I won't get to cover it. But I would urge you to check it out yourself. It's called Evolution Atlantica, and it looks like a really well put together library and already has some exciting sounding demos online. It's very much geared up to trailer scoring and big effects, with patches focusing on fat basses and aggressive guitars. It looks like it'll have about 100 patches come release day and be about 8 gigabytes in size, running in the full version of Contact 5.5.1 and above. Keepforest's last library, Evolution Dragon, was a big hit with me, and I'm excited to see what they can come up with this time around. So do keep your ears open for a release of Atlantica at the end of this month. Thank you so much for joining me this week on the Samplecast. I know there was a lot to get through, but hopefully you've found something that you like in the show. If you want to find out more about the show or me in particular, then you can do at these links to the side just there. And we'll see you again next week. Bye bye now.